A two-part question for you. First, have you received assurances that you'll be able to see through this season as head coach?
I haven't been reassured one way or the other, no.
Okay, and the second part is, do you feel like the way that things are going, that your job is in jeopardy, at least following this season?
Listen, I've been around this league a long time, 25 years, I believe, as a player and a coach, and we're always based on and we're evaluated on our performance. And right now, that's obviously not my concern as far as that decision goes. That's out of my hands. But what's in my hands and in my control is getting the team prepared and ready for Green Bay this weekend.
I think it was fitting that as Doug Pederson answered those questions, the Super Bowl trophy was looming over his shoulder.
Seriously, right?
It was just
a reminder.
3 years ago. Just 3 years ago that the Eagles won it all, but it shows you how short the memories are and how exacting the demands can be, especially once you've proven that you can win a Super Bowl. It's the kid who brought home straight A's. You can't just bring straight A's home once. The parents develop an expectation. The straight A's are going to continue.
I could say I brought it home every now and then. I brought it home, and then I went back and said, I don't know. But you're right. I know what you're saying. You're right. There is that expectation. And he set expectations at a very high level, definitely. There's no doubt about that. I do. Do you think I'm one that sits here and go, Doug Pederson on the hot seat, to me, is crazy. Crazy. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. This year's not been good. We understand that. We hit a lot on, hey, Carson Wentz's struggles, injury issues. We talked about, hey, the team itself, they might have held on to that Super Bowl team shelf life just 1 or 2 years too long, and Howie Roseman. So it's bigger than Doug Pederson. But damn, 7-9 Super Bowl, beat up after the Super Bowl, make a run, get in the playoffs, almost got the Saints in big trouble as the number 1 seed in the NFC. Last year, injuries again, battle, get to the playoffs once again. To me, that's not even a discussion. I don't know how you feel about that.
I don't think it should be a discussion either, especially since it's a crazy upside-down year. And we've never seen, and I still keep racking my brain, for a quarterback who came in with a high draft pedigree, who played well enough to get a second contract. And It's not like anyone was saying Carson Wentz shouldn't get a second contract. I was saying Jared Goff maybe shouldn't get a second contract, but I wasn't thinking that Carson Wentz shouldn't get a second contract. And then all of a sudden, he's not the guy that he was. Well, what do you do? How do you process that? You've got financial restrictions that make it impossible to move on from Carson Wentz. You have to try to make chicken salad. And the idea that the guy who's been to the playoffs 3 straight years, who won a Super Bowl, who almost got back to the Final Four, who somehow, with a 5-7 record last year, won the last 4 games of the season, got to the playoffs, and could have beaten the Seahawks, but for the illegal hit that was neither flagged nor fined when Jadeveon Clowney went in hot, helmet first, on Carson Wentz and concussed him, and they had to go with Josh McCown the rest of the way, for crying out loud. We love Josh McCown, but not in a playoff game against the Seahawks. We love him. So, and the idea that this team, which is only a half game out of first place, that the mere fact that we've arrived at the point in the season where a reporter will, with a straight face, ask those questions: have you got an assurance that you're going to be the coach for the rest of the year? Do you think that you're going to be the coach beyond this season? I was stunned by that. And, and different coaches would have reacted to that differently. I respect Doug Pederson for not telling that reporter to cram it sideways, frankly. Right. But still, that's look, part of that's Philly. Tough town.
Right. That's
good ways and bad ways. Tough town, and you gave them a taste of the top of the mountain. They don't want to go back to the bottom of it.
Yeah, well, Doug Pederson's Philly tough, though. I really do believe that. He doesn't give a damn. His teams show that. They play Philly tough, too. They're always battling. They always have good energy. Despite whether they're healthy or playing good football, Philadelphia always comes to play and compete and is physical. And Doug Pederson's management of players and how they play for them, I think that's shown from the get-go in Philadelphia, how much the team likes him and respects him. he's like Andy Reid. He never points fingers at players. He always blames himself and does those things. It's tough right now. Yeah, it's tough. But I'm not like counting Doug Pederson out in the big picture of things in Philadelphia going forward. No, they fix a few things on that team and they're healthy. And with his coaching, and of course they got some talent on defense, I sit there and go, no, Philadelphia can turn this around in one offseason and be right back in the mix next year.
Remember, emotional intelligence was the buzzword that Jeffrey Lurie was reciting after he fired Chip Kelly, who had, frankly, no emotional intelligence, and hired Doug Pederson. And I think that's something that Jeff Lurie needs to keep in mind as he considers his options, because ultimately it's his decision. But sometimes you want to be careful what you wish for, because sometimes that new head coach isn't going to be the guy that turns it around. He's going to be worse. It's going to be more of a problem. And look, unless they are willing to take a gigantic financial hit and pay Carson Wentz a bunch of money to not play for them, and take the cap hit in a year when the salary cap is only going to be in the neighborhood of $175 million,
you'd be better off supporting him.
Your alternative is, let's see what happens next year, and maybe everyone's on notice next year. And look, one trend that has emerged in Philly: Andy Reid missed the playoffs 2 straight years. He was gone. Chip Kelly missed the playoffs 2 straight years. He was gone. So if they don't make it to the playoffs this year and they don't make it next year, okay, fine. If that's how Jeff Lurie wants to run his team, it's his prerogative. You fire your coach if he doesn't make it to the playoffs 2 straight years. So that's kind of a high bar, but if that's what you do, that's what you do. But I just think it would be a huge mistake to completely forget about 2017, 2018, and 2019.
Yeah, I do too. And to your point about the Carson Wentz thing and getting rid of him and taking some huge salary cap hit, yeah, I don't think that's realistic. First off, I mean, we know Doug Pederson, Howie Roseman, they believe in Carson Wentz. They made moves to get him. So they're going to let him – he's got 9 lives as far as the Eagles organization is considered. And Carson Wentz, well, he's got his own issues. He's got to adjust to Philly life and all that stuff too. But I think their best bet would be, and a guy they believe in, hey, let's fix some of the issues of the team. Let's get some receivers, a few more weapons around here around the guy, and then we can make a decision after the 2021 season to see if Carson Wentz is still our guy either way. But I can't imagine that happening here, the 2022 season. You know what I'm saying there.
It's amazing how quickly, though, an issue can become a thing in the NFL. And I think that the Eagles are now under this microscope for 2 reasons. First, the report from the Philadelphia Inquirer that Jeffrey Lurie left the Week 11 game didn't show up, didn't even go, boycotted the Browns-Eagles game because of his frustration with the team. And part of that report from Jeff McClain of the Philadelphia Inquirer, Lurie has been leaving practices in disgust this year. That's part of what has turned this up. And also the Monday night game. It became open season on dysfunction between the coaching staff and the front office, open season on Howie Roseman because one of the broadcasters got fired by Howie Roseman and never bothered to acknowledge that when it was open season on Howie Roseman, which does kind of bother me. I've mentioned it 2 days in a row now.
Right.
I just think if you're going to bash somebody, explain to the audience that isn't up on all of the relationships and histories
know
Mike, what, the guy did fire me.
Right.
So maybe that's influencing my continued attack on the guy who once fired me. So anyway, it's a thing now. And there's nothing like going into Green Bay and beating the Packers, which they did last year.
They did.
Right? This is a blessing and a curse for the Eagles, because last year they went in there and won on a Thursday night. If they could do it again this year, I think it ends all the talk. If they lose this year, though, you're going to have to, well, last year you beat them and this year you didn't. So, boy, you really are worse this year than you were last year. So it's an opportunity, but it's also, if they just get embarrassed in Green Bay, it's going to make this chatter even louder, I think, Chris.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think they, again, it's the NFL. We know it's a matchup league. There's certain things that they match up well with the Green Bay Packers. But Green Bay, for the most part, the way they execute, and again, it just comes down to sheer manpower and just not enough playmakers. 97 different starting offensive lineman arrangements this year. All those issues have just caught up to Philadelphia. And that's made Carson Wentz press and probably Doug Pederson's pressed. And it's just there's issues. I just don't see them turning it around this year. I really don't. I think this is one year where, yeah, we're going to look back and go, damn, that they ended up 4-11-1 or 5-10-1, and they got some rebuilding to do.
Couple of quick points before we take a break. First, Pederson declined to get into any of his specific conversations with the owner of the team, Jeffrey Lurie, but Pederson said they have a good relationship. It's always good until it isn't. That's kind of how it goes in the NFL. As it relates, though, to this Jalen Hurts issue, we saw a couple of snaps from Hurts on Monday night. There was an anticipation there would be more. Let's listen to the exchange between Pederson and reporters on this question of whether or not Pederson was on board with a second-round pick being devoted to the drafting of Jalen Hurts. Here it is.
Were you on board with the Jalen Hurts draft pick when it happened?
Yes, I was. Why?
Well, yeah, so because I'm wondering, because it hasn't really exactly played out the way you guys originally, at least the way that Howie originally said that he would be utilized on offense, and it seems to have undermined you to some extent and Carson Wentz.
No, I don't understand where you're coming from. Because we, every year we look at quarterbacks. Every year we, if we have an opportunity to take a quarterback, we're going to take a quarterback. At least look at the position. I mean, every position is looked at and studied, and wherever we can help and add talent and depth, we're going to do that. And the quarterback position is not exempt from that. And this is a sport where there's only one quarterback that plays, and Carson is that player right now, and we go to work, and we continue to coach Jalen, and we get him prepared if he has to go in and play.
So much of what you do in your practice law is study demeanor and delays and facial expressions and gestures. And look, I know that we've spent the last 10 minutes or so saying that everything's fine ultimately, and they've been good the last 3 years, not this year, but 17, 18, 19. But that was a guy choosing his words very, very carefully and not trying to step onto a landmine on this question of whether he was behind the Jalen Hurts decision, Chris.
Well, it's a lightning rod topic. I mean, it really is. Everybody, of course, when the team wins in every city, the team loses in any city, it's the first thing is always bench the coach, and then bench the quarterback. Bench the quarterback, bench the quarterback, bench the quarterback. We need to play the backup. And then it's Jalen Hurts, who has been on everybody's radar the last few years because he was the quarterback at Alabama and the quarterback at Oklahoma. And there's this storied, college programs. And, whoa, they're good. And, oh, look, he's the quarterback. And look at these numbers he's putting up at Oklahoma. We need to put him in there. Philadelphia drafted him to be, a little bit of a weapon here probably in the first year or two of his career. And then, hey, maybe we, get a diamond in the rough at quarterback where Carson Wentz, we know he's physical, gets hurt a lot, maybe 3-4 years down the road. And if we're not feeling the same about Carson Wentz, maybe Jalen Hurts can turn into something. And in the meantime, he can help out our offense and be a weapon and do all those things. The problem is everybody in Philadelphia wants him to take over as a pure quarterback. And I think everybody in the Philly organization is trying to tell the public without really saying it that he's not ready to play quarterback. But nobody wants to take that. And I think that's really where the big issue is more than anything right now.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.